Kick the flow, kick the flow, kick the flow, kick the flow, kick the flow.
How the country was built on human property.
12% of GDP in 1800, the financing of the Napoleonic Wars, and the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution come out of that massive industry. And we weren't the good guys. We were almost the worst guys. We didn't abolish it first. And we shipped 3.25 million Africans across the Atlantic. That's more than Spain, more than France, more than the Americans. But you and I grew up with, we're the best nation. We're the most decent ones. I mean, I think that the main point is ask any black person with heritage in the Caribbean, if he can talk about this as something important in his past, and they'll just go, no white person has ever wanted to talk about it with me. So that was the point of the book, really.
And what do you think about, right-wing publications or right-wing, talking heads saying this is woke gobbledygook? And asking, British civil servants or British cultural institutions such as the English Heritage or the National Trust to interrogate this past in order to inform our present.
Well, I think that, as you said, there's complex different things going on here. I like history. I read history. I don't see anything wrong with knowing all the history. I think we're brave enough as a nation to take the warts and the good things. The National Trust, deciding to tell the whole story of their properties rather than just the nice bit, seems to me grown up, mature. I have to say, one of these National Trust properties was lived in by my last slave-owning grandfather.
Do you want to tell us about that?
It's a house called New Hales, which lots of people who live in Edinburgh will know very well. Beautiful house at Musselburgh. And so Sir Charles Dalrymple Ferguson, my 3 times great-grandfather, who was the last slave owner, got compensation in 1833 of nearly £3 million. He shared it.
Hold on, how much is that in today's money?
It's 3 million. It's 3 million
in today's money. Okay.
Today's money.
And so he was compensated for having to get rid of his slaves.
Yes, because the only way you could get the law through the British Parliament was by saying that the slave owners, the richest people in Britain, would be compensated. But were the slaves compensated?
No,
obviously not.
It's incredible.
It is incredible, and it was the biggest transfer of one sum of money by the government in the whole 19th century. It's like you bought off all the fossil fuel companies to make them stop causing.
So it was a sort of win-win for the slave-owning class, because they profited from slavery, and then they profited again when they were compensated for stopping slavery.
Yes, and the line in Scotland where a very high proportion of the slave owners were, is they put the money straight into railway shares.
Then they trebled their money again.
Yeah, but kick-started, the Industrial Revolution. So anyone who says, and a lot of people on the right, I get a lot of abuse about this, but on the right say this is ancient history, why it's just no more important than the Egyptians building pyramids, is just totally wrong. It is the foundation of the Britain we live in today. And the culture, our multicultural Britain with 14% non-white people is also a product of empire and what we did, and maybe the best product of it. I like living in a multicultural Britain myself.
And I've heard you speak before, and you've talked about how the conversation around reparations, the white slave-owning class was compensated, but the slaves and the slave countries have never been compensated, have they?
No, and I think there are economic historians of the 20th century colonial period which said that we kind of went on ripping off the Caribbean nations. They sent their young men to fight in our wars and drive our buses and clean our hospitals, but we kept them as we were the shop, and they had to come and buy their stuff from us. It's very hard to put together a case for again, that story we were brought up as the benevolent mother country doesn't really hold up. And I think we need to talk about it.
No, we were Great Britain because we abolished slavery. That was what I remember from my prep school days. Alex, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. I was talking to Alex Renton, the journalist and author of Blood Legacy, which I highly recommend. His story, or his account of his own family's trade, of the slave trade. Right, well, so we're sort of talking about that, and also about privilege in the news is that white civil servants are...
Kick the flow, 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 kick the flow.